Disney movies can be enjoyed by people of all ages. However, some of its content gets funnier with age. Not sure what we mean by that? Well, by the end of this video, your view on Disney humor might never be the same again. Here are the 10 items Disney failed at being Disney. And believe us when we say that number 1 will shock you for days on end. New around here? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up. Okay, now let's get right into the top 10 times Disney was oh so inappropriate. MERIDA'S parents. If you're a fan of 2012's Brave, you've probably watched the Disney movie more times than you can count. However, depending on how old you are, you might have missed some inappropriate scenes that were targeted at the older generation. At the beginning of this film, we see a young Merida learning to shoot her brand new bow and arrow. The King of Dunbrock is proudly watching his daughter load her arrows while giving her some pointers. But the same can't be said about Queen Eleanor. After running out of arrows, Merida is sent to retrieve hers from the woods, and once at a comfortable range, the queen pounces on her husband to reprimand him for gifting a princess with a bow. But before she has the chance to scold him, the king smacks his wife's backside and starts giggling like a madman. This subtle moment is hardly ever noticed by children, but is instantly caught by adults. This hilarious scene isn't something that is typically showcased in Disney movies, but producers saw fit to add it in their script. In a way, this might be Disney's way of showing us that King Fergus and Queen Eleanor have a happy marriage, even though they have very different personalities. From where we're standing, it looks like King Fergus knows how to avoid being scolded by his wife. ZOOTOPIA'S gory moment. If there's one thing Disney movie has, it's a core message that can teach you a thing or two. In 2016, the film Zootopia hit the big screen, and people from all over the world crowded the movie theaters. This movie takes place in the animal kingdom. However, it's completely different than the one we're familiar with. Instead of living in forests, jungles, and trees, our favorite animals inhabit a human-like world and take on everyday tasks like going to work and fighting off stereotypes. Zootopia revolves around a little bunny named Judy, who is determined to become a police officer in the big city. The problem is, rabbits are considered prey animals and don't usually land jobs in the crime-fighting department. During this film, Judy brings us back to her childhood and shows us a play she created to explain how the animal kingdom used to work before animal rights kicked in. She teams up with a tiger to put on a show her audience will never forget. To say that this scene is obscene would be an understatement, especially since young Judy went all out in the blood department. During her show, the tiger swipes at her belly and she begins pulling red ribbons from her midsection. She then goes on to throw herself onto the floor and squirt ketchup out of her side. The look on her parents' faces is more than enough to know that she went a little too far.
Really? I'm guessing you don't have much experience with heat.
Nope.
Aladdin in a brothel. There's no use denying it. Disney's Aladdin is riddled with some of the most offensive lines we've ever heard. With so many vulgar moments to choose from, we had our work cut out for us. One of the most surprising lines in the film is heard at the beginning of the song, One Jump Ahead. A guard spots Aladdin stealing a loaf of bread, and while chasing him, he yells, "I'll have your hands for a trophy, street rat." While his words are sickening to hear, many other scenes make them fade into the background. One that you may not have noticed occurs during the very same song, but 3 Arabian women wearing flashy colors camouflage it. In this scene, Aladdin comes soaring through the window of a brothel. However, many of us never realize that. To make matters worse, the workers know Aladdin by name and comment on how sad it is that he's hit rock bottom and doesn't have money anymore. By the end of this scene, the brothel's manager chases him with a broom and he jumps out the window with a lustful look on his face. These events are easily overlooked, but they're present nonetheless. Well done, Disney. Well done. Ursula's last scene. All Ursula ever wanted was to become the mightiest sea dweller who ever lived. Unfortunately for her, her success was short-lived. Disney's Little Mermaid is by far one of the most successful movies in its repertoire, so much so that its franchise received 3 installments. Regardless, many of us would agree that the original Little Mermaid was by far the best. After striking an impossible deal with Princess Ariel, Ursula bewitches Eric to fall in love with her. While her witchcraft proves to be useful for quite some time, her spell is eventually broken. But this doesn't stop the wicked sea witch from obtaining her much-desired trident. After uniting her forces with the trident, Ursula becomes big and mighty and begins wreaking havoc on everyone around her. Unfortunately for her, Prince Eric manages to sneak onto a boat and direct a massive spike into her midsection. Ursula gets surprised by the blow and immediately sinks into the sea while screaming in agony. We don't know about you, but this scene freaked us out as children. It's hard to believe that Disney animated such a violent scene instead of leaving her demise up to our imaginations. We never thought we'd say it, but we feel sorry for Ursula.
Human stuff, huh? Hey, let me see.
Tarzan meets Jane. Growing up in the wild can severely impact your social behavior skills, especially if you were raised by apes. When Tarzan first laid eyes on Jane, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. And can you blame him? After all, he'd never seen another human being before that very moment. To keep his identity secret, Tarzan watches Jane from afar. That is, until she has a run-in with a herd of baboons. At this point, Tarzan rushes to rescue Jane and helps her escape from her angry enemies. After bringing her to safety, Tarzan starts to get a better look at his new friend, and it's evident that he likes what he sees. Disney is supposed to be for children, but every once in a while, they target their humor toward an older audience. While this is hilarious, it's a classic moment of Disney failing at being Disney. In this scene, we see Tarzan getting closer and closer to Jane. He starts examining her toes, but then quickly moves on to look under her skirt. She kicks him away and looks around for help, clearly uncomfortable. Her awkward state is heightened when Tarzan places his head on her chest, despite her warning him that he is close enough. All in all, this unpleasant scene shocked many of its viewers. But hey, give Tarzan a break. He was just getting to know Jane the way an ape would have. Anna punches Hans. Like most people, all Princess Anna ever wanted was to love and be loved in return. Well, she might have gotten her wish, but it didn't pan out the way she thought it would. After meeting someone who seemed to be her one true love, Anna's sister Elsa ran away from home. Determined to bring her back to Arendelle, Anna chooses to leave her betrothed Hans in charge of her kingdom. This proves to be a big mistake, especially since Hans turns out to be Frozen's big bad guy. When Anna realizes that Hans is nothing but a big fat phony, she does everything in her power to save her sister. Turns out, the love she always wanted came in the form of sisterly love, and to preserve it, she sacrificed herself to save Elsa's life. Anna's heart froze once again, but this time, there were no trolls to bring her back to life. Thankfully, Anna survived the icy encounter, but no thanks to Hans, who literally conspired to usurp the Arendelle throne. After all was said and done, Anna and Hans ran into each other on the docks. But this time, Anna wasn't going to let him get off so easily. The princess punched Hans in the face so hard that it sent him flying off his ship and into the icy waters. When you take a look at this scene in slow motion, you see just how much damage Anna did to Hans' face, which we'd say is pretty darn impressive.
You and this fellow? Woohoo! Big summer blowout?
Frozen's foot-size moment. When it comes to Disney's Frozen, it's pretty obvious that the film is jam-packed with sensitive adult humor. However, children under 13 years old are unlikely to find any of these jokes funny because, well, they just don't understand them yet. After meeting a traveler named Kristoff, Anna tells him about the beginning of her journey and why she left Arendelle in the first place. As she's spilling the beans, her newest travel buddy can't seem to get past her first sentence, which reveals that she got engaged to someone she just met. Determined to make her realize that her sister Elsa was right to freak out over her engagement, Kristoff starts asking Anna questions about her fiancé. During a quick round of questions, Kristoff ends up asking Anna about Hans's foot size, to which she replies, "Size doesn't matter." This tidbit of information is quickly covered up with more questions, but for the most part, viewers notice the inappropriate reference. Cinderella's mice. Cinderella was raised to treat everyone with respect and kindness. However, the same can't be said about Lady Tremaine and her two daughters. For the longest time, Cinderella lived with her widowed father, whom she loved very much. Unfortunately, her life took a turn for the worst when her dad chose to marry Lady Tremaine. After his passing, the young girl was turned into a servant by her evil stepmother and quickly realized that her life was no longer hers to live. On the plus side, though, Cinderella was lucky enough to have a handful of good friends. Sure, they came in the form of mice and birds, but this made no difference to Cinderella. In one scene, we see Jacques and Gus searching Cinderella's home for buttons, fabrics, threads, and jewelry. You see, her little friends want to make her a dress that she can wear to the ball. The problem is, they encounter Lady Tremaine's wicked cat on the way back to Cinderella's quarters and are forced to improvise. When their beaded necklace breaks, Jacques starts to thread the beads through Gus's tail, while his rounder friend gathers them into his hat. While this scene might look innocent enough, it's another classic example of Disney failing at being Disney. If you don't see what's wrong with this image, you might have a eureka moment in a few years from now. The flashing headlights. Lightning McQueen was used to getting everything he wanted, but his life took a strange turn, causing him to wind up in Radiator Springs. This town was unlike anything he'd ever seen, and he soon found out how it felt to be treated like everyone else. If there's one scene we couldn't help but make a face at, it's the one that included Mia and Tia. These twin red cars rush to the gates where Lightning is being photographed, and they urgently explain that they are his biggest fans. Then, out of the blue, Mia and Tia's headlights go up and flash at Lightning. And to our big surprise, the car says, "Ah, I love being me." This hilarious scene took a lot of people by surprise, especially since most of us wouldn't expect Disney to put something like this in their film. By the end of this segment, police cars rush Mia and Tia off the stage, and the girls scream, "We love you, Lightning," as they're being reprimanded by the cops.
Chartreuse? How about yellow? No, not yellow. Yellow and snow? No go.
Genie's honeymoon joke. Some jokes aren't meant for children, but they're still put into motion because writers believe them to be hilarious. Despite Disney being meant for younger adults, they usually fail at keeping their content PG. So, you've made it to the end of our video and want to find out which Disney moment is in first place? Well, you've earned it. In Aladdin and the King of Thieves, Aladdin and Jasmine are finally getting married. However, their wedding takes a turn when a thief with pointy claws pokes an elephant in the butt. At this point, the elephant takes off running toward the ceremony, and his big steps alarm the crowd. Looking slightly afraid, Genie bends down and says, "I thought the earth wasn't supposed to move until the honeymoon started." Although easily missed in the action-packed scene, Genie was insinuating that Aladdin and Jasmine would be doing the deed sometime soon, which is unbefitting of Disney in more ways than one. Despite Disney's many issues with keeping things kid-friendly, we can't help but chuckle at their jokes. Which Disney moment surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And that's the end of our video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on The Things.